What's up, guys? Today we are talking about Celestia, the first modular consensus and data network to power scalable and secure Web3 apps. We're going to look at their socials today. I'm going to explain to you what Celestia is and why it's a game changer. Plus, by the end of today, you're going to know exactly what you need to do to make sure you take part in this airdrop. All right, guys, without further ado, let's just jump right in. Let's take a look at their Twitter. They have about 36,000 followers, which is pretty impressive for a project that's still in DevNet. So I would definitely suggest following them on Twitter like I'm about to do right now. Their Twitter feed is filled with lots of useful information about this project. Plus, it's a good way to kind of measure engagement with the community. You can tell here by the likes, retweets, comments, all that kind of information really helps you to understand what's going on with this project. They tweet pretty much every day, which is really good to see, especially from a newer project, and they're always leaking little bits of alpha here and there. Over here in their Discord, we can see that they have about 2,300 members, and they get in a lot of engagement, a lot of people using the Discord to communicate with one another, which is a great sign to see, especially, like I said before, since they're still in DevNet. They haven't even gotten to the testnet yet. So now let's take a look at what Celestia is. Like I said before, it's the first modular consensus and data network to power scalable, secure Web3 applications. So what does that mean? It allows you to deploy a blockchain as easily as a smart contract. Celestia provides consensus and security on demand, enabling anyone to deploy a blockchain without the overhead of bootstrapping a new consensus network. It makes scaling simple with data availability sampling. Because Celestia does not validate transactions, its throughput is not bottlenecked by state execution like traditional blockchains. Thanks to a property of data availability sampling, Celestia's throughput scales with the number of users. It's secure interoperability for all Celestia chains. Blockchains built on top of Celestia do not rely on honest majority assumptions for state validity, meaning that they can interoperate with the highest security standards. And it lets you choose your own execution environment. Since Celestia does not impose any execution logic, developers are free to define their own execution environments. Celestia will support all flavors of rollups, but we are initially focused on the EVM and Cosmos SDK. So how it works? Celestia is a minimal blockchain that only orders and publishes transactions and does not execute them. By decoupling the consensus and application execution layers, Celestia modularizes the blockchain technology stack and unlocks a new possibility for decentralized application builders. All right, guys, in case that went right over your head, I actually went on Twitter and found this great explanation of what Celestial is. Check this out.
So Celestia is the first modular blockchain network. Celestia separates the two, or kind of three, I guess, core functions of every blockchain. So every blockchain has to do like two things, essentially: consensus and execution. Consensus is the ordering of transactions. So it's like how everyone in the network agrees on what has happened in what order. And then once you have that ordering of transactions, it's like a history of events, then you can interpret that using your execution model, like a state transition function. So that basically dictates what transactions are valid, and then also like how those transactions impact the state. Like how does that update the state? Every blockchain that has been built so far is monolithic, meaning that those two things, consensus and execution, happen at the same time and are enforced by the same set of validators. And Celestia's insight was that if you go back to the core concepts of what blockchain is about, you realize that those two things can actually be decoupled. So you can actually you can separate them into two separate layers, essentially. So you can have a layer that just does consensus, and then you can have a separate layer that does execution. And so what Celestia is it's a consensus and data availability layer on which people can deploy their own execution layers. And that's kind of why it's modular, right? Like we're modularizing the blockchain stack. We're decoupling things into more specific, specialized components. And that gives you a lot of advantages. On a high level, you get much better scalability, you get better security, and you get better like sovereignty or flexibility.
Okay, next guys, I'm gonna let John from Celestia explain why Celestia is such a game changer. And to see the entire interview, definitely go check out Cryptocito and subscribe to his channel. He has great Cosmos content and is definitely somebody that I follow very closely. Let's jump in.
Maybe I should explain what Celestia is. So Celestia is a blockchain. It's a layer 1 blockchain. And as you alluded to earlier, it does something interesting with its virtual machine, with its execution environment that no other blockchain does. And specifically what it does is, rather than having an execution environment that actually validates transactions to ensure they're valid, the Celestia virtual machine doesn't validate transactions at all. It does not care what people's account balances are. It doesn't care what the UTXO set is. It doesn't care about the Uniswap contract or any other contract. All it does is it takes those zeros and ones that are in the transaction data and it puts them in a block. And it says, okay, here's a block. The block has zeros and ones in this sequence, and I'm not going to execute those transactions. I'm just going to put them in the block. Now, what you can do is, once you have, like, Celestia will run a consensus protocol over these blocks, like Tendermint consensus, like you said. And once you have these zeros and ones in a nice ordering from the consensus protocol, you can run applications on top of it, where the applications will kind of pull up some zeros and ones. They'll pull out some subset of the blocks and run some virtual machine over these transactions. For example, you could imagine that imagine you taking entire Bitcoin blocks, like the entire Bitcoin block, and you just put it on Celestia. Just put every single Bitcoin block, header included. You just put it all on Celestia. Then, and there could be other applications too, like Ethereum. You could run Solana. You could run the Cosmos Hub, Gaia, or whatever. You could run Chihuahua Chain if you wanted to. You could run a bunch of different applications. So the Bitcoin application would now go to the Celestia blockchain and say, okay, give me all the zeros and ones for my Bitcoin application. It would get back those Bitcoin application blocks and run the Bitcoin full node software and validate the transactions. And that's all Celestia is that imagine you take blocks from other blockchains and you put them there.
All right, guys, let's talk about what you need to do to make sure you get this airdropped. So after looking around, I found out that they're going to have an incentivized testnet. And what that means is if you take part in their testnet, usually at the end of it, they're going to airdrop you some tokens or compensate you in some way for helping them figure everything out. So I've seen around people are joining the DevNet, which is currently happening. Don't do that. You're going to waste your time. If we hop over to their Discord, has the incentivized testnet started yet? And the answer was not yet. There will be a public testnet launching first in Q2, followed by an incentivized testnet after that. And if we go over to the announcements page, please note the DevNet 2 is a developer testnet only, and there are no rewards for participating in DevNet 2. If you're trying to claim tokens from the faucet in the hope of a reward or airdrop, you will be disappointed. All right. And they even went as far as to close the faucet for DevNet 2. If there's anyone telling you that participating in the DevNet is going to get you an airdrop, it's not. You can hear it here from their Discord. It's not the way to go. But keep an eye out. Join their Discord. Definitely follow them on Twitter. Keep an eye out for the announcement for the airdrop for the testnet. This way you are first on the list and hopefully you can get the biggest airdrop. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. I will see you guys in the next video. And as always, we can keep talking about getting more coins.